that really drives me in a lot of work that I do, a lot of the writing that I do, that we have some incredible AI, data analytics, startup kind of companies in South Africa. The challenge is that not a lot of people know about them, not a lot of them know about each other and work together. And I've seen with what these people are doing, platforms being built, problems being solved that is equal to or sometimes even better than what you can find in Silicon Valley. So I think this is going to be an interesting conversation. I just want to read a stat here before we get going. It's called the SA Startup Ecosystem Report of 2022. And it says that 357 South African tech startups have raised a combined $16.5 billion in funding since 2015. Okay, now this is a few months old, so maybe by now it's $20 billion, 20 billion rand. They employ an estimated 11,000 people, these startups. And then there was another quote here from a report PwC that says, AI technology will grow Africa's economy by $1.5 trillion by 2030. So, welcome guys. Adam, I'm going to start with you maybe, and then we can just go down the road. Just, Michael have introduced us, but maybe just a bit more about you and about the company that you represent, and then we'll get going with the questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Johan. I'm really proud to be here representing Elucidate. We're an awesome organization. Looking forward to this panel, and of course, Johan, from you. Just a little bit about myself. I think a slightly unconventional route to find my way on this chair, but I'm actually a former auditor. I was at a big 4 firm. My story is a little bit interesting. Obviously, COVID hit. I was peak articles at the time, working quite hard. Prior to that, remote working in the audit space was not really a thing. But we soon quickly realized that you can actually work 16 to 18-hour days at home. But during that time, it was quite an interesting phase. I was always very interested in the tech and how we can, better audit procedures. I always find myself questioning why was I ticking in 25 employee payslips to, the GLs and whatnot. But my questions were answered. I became almost a guinea pig for these smart tools that the firm I was at started to implement. Recon bots to reconcile general ledgers to those source documents I mentioned, or advanced analyzers for those larger clients that have, volumes of data that we really want to start understanding from an audit point of view. So my teams we were the guinea pigs for those tools. To cut a long story short, they didn't work. We found ourselves struggling to use them, but not just that, we found ourselves having to figure out how to use them, and then during the review process, explain to our manager or partner what exactly we did. And there was someone got a payday, let's just say that, and they developed a solution, we had to use it. But that got me thinking. I always noted the pain points, and I thought, there must be better ways to do it. A few months after my articles, I decided I need to kind of move away from the space. I met my role, an awesome entrepreneur and the founder of Elucidate, an AI technologist. Had a conversation with him, and I started Elucidate the next day. It's been an awesome journey since then. I'm not going to get into organization just yet, it's just an intro. But I'm really excited to be here. I'm glad to be in this space. I think, some of these other startups, I've got to know you guys over the last, few months and also today, but we're doing some great things, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the panel.
Well, thank you, Evan. Rob?
So I'm Rob Jansens from Ecosystems.AI. We're a supply platform that companies can use to build their own human-centered interactions. And what that generally means is that in this day and age is that we're interacting all the time with digital technology, but it's digital, it's not human. And to try and extract that sort of human feeling or that sort of context that a human has, from day to day, things change. How do you make sure that interaction, that digital interaction, whether it's a message that your telco is sending you or your bank, how does that message change from day to day and from hour to hour? How do you respond to the changes in context? And our platform allows you to build those human-centric interactions so that you can make the journey with your customer more seamless and more human. Some background around me: I'm a civil engineer, and the product that we've been developing for the last couple of years is the best of the breed from Silicon Valley. We're connected into that environment, into the open source community, and we're really trying to make this platform available to both technical users, data scientists, technologists, and to the business users to actually put something into production that allows you to offer recommended. Let's see if this campaign is going to work. Let's see how it works, and make sure that if it's not working, take out of production in a couple of hours and seamlessly transition to another campaign. Maybe your discount was too little or too much. Do you want to change that amount? Do you want to change the products that you're recommending? Make all of those changes seamlessly and actually start taking data science out from behind the desk and into the real world. And so that's what our platform allows you to do.
Thank you, Rob. The lily amongst the lily from the valley.
Thank you so much, Johan. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nomsa Nteleko. My journey started with technology started from when I was doing ERP systems or ERP solutions, which I continue to do. But 2 years ago, then we started Amathuba. It is an aggregator of artificial intelligence. Basically, what we do is that we identify and look at brilliant AI companies on the continent. The greatest challenge is bringing an AI company to business. There's always the way technology will develop tools, but it's such a great challenge to take these tools to business because the language is not the same. So with Amathuba, that's the first thing that we've done. And the biggest, some of the problems that we're solving is we're looking at, in terms of businesses, where are the limitations in terms of where technology is going? How can we help organizations in terms of transforming and using artificial intelligence to augment their solutions? And obviously, for me, I'm a salesperson at heart, and sales are innovators. We don't find spaces where we cannot plug in solutions. We're really optimistic in terms of ensuring that our customers, they get value for money in terms of what they do, but they can solve all the problems or all the challenges they come across. And now you can imagine the fights we would have with the technical teams, but I found AI to be then completing and filling that gap that you may find in an ERP system or a solution that you already have, but you just need to take it to the next level. I'm really excited to be in this session and this forum. There's so many things that we learned in the past day or so. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nomsa. Andrew.
Morning, everybody. My name is Andrew Bosma. I'm the co-founder and CTO of OQLIS. And towards the end of 2014, I came to the conclusion that the world needs more software, and we decided to build some. So fundamentally, what I saw is that when people need to make a decision, they're looking at data, they put it in Excel, and they need to communicate that decision throughout the organization. And what I saw is that people were moving to the cloud, people were consuming SaaS-based products, and deployment times sort of had to shrink, and time to value had to shrink. So in that, I set out to build basically a business intelligence tool that's sort of born in the modern web, sort of completely designed for the modern web, consumed as software as a service, everything from small enterprises to large. So that was in 2014. So basically, fast forward a couple of years since then, and basically what we've built over time is what we call a data intelligence platform. Because what we realize is that data is the fabric of every single modern enterprise, where previously it maybe was an accounting system or ERP. In our view, data is basically the new ERP, and people need to connect tools on top of that data stream. They need to visualize that, they need to automate that, and they need to publish it across the user base. So OQLIS is a product. You can think about it as Power BI on steroids and more. And basically South African born and bred, sort of operated out of South Africa, got international customers and local customers. So very happy to be here. Thanks, Johan.
Thank you, Andrew. Definitely want to touch on things like how difficult it is to start a business in South Africa. What do you know now that you wish you knew back then, etc. But I want to start with some of the successes. Nomsa, I want to start with you. You spoke about this municipality that you guys helped. You can also maybe mention others, but what are some of the standout the problems that you've solved through your technology in your business?
Thank you, Johan. It's twofold. I think everyone in this room understands that municipalities have such a bad brand. And I think one of the things that we've been trying to do is to assist them in terms of making sure that they are able to report properly. One of the biggest challenges in local government is the fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Now, this happens when they would be paying contracts that have expired. So we chose to really simplify bringing AI into local government because there's so much learning that still needs to happen. And the minute you say, this is an AI tool that I'm bringing, what you get is that, no, it's too futuristic, we're not ready for it. So what we've done, we've implemented a contract management solution for a municipality in KZN that has your chatbot functionality. Now, what this does is that they now know which contracts are expiring. They now know what is it that they're spending, how are they spending, and which communities are they spending this to. This obviously takes into consideration your integrated development plan. This is where municipalities need to know which communities are they giving services to. The big success for us, firstly, was to get all contracts in a municipality to be put into a system. That was the biggest thing. But what was also amazing that the client really enjoyed was when you can go into a system and say, send me a contract for Amathuba AI, the system does exactly that. And the minute it sends you that contract, because it's linked to a intelligent document management system, it will tell you that this is a contract, this is when it expires, this is the owner of the contract, and you have this number of days, for you to renew or whatever the case may be. So this then starts helping in curbing the fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And I think the other biggest challenges that municipalities face is that when it comes to the time of reporting your annual AFS, the preparation happens from 1st of July to 31st of August. And I spoke to a number of CFOs that are in this process, and one of them told me that we spend at least 600 hours, from 1st of July to end of August. Now, imagine if we can reduce the 160 hours to at least 320 hours. What does then that do? That gives them time back into their families instead of them working day and night to try and ensure that their financials are out and they're correct and they're accurate. So those are some of the wins and some of the solutions we've brought for them.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Johan.
Thank you. Rob, I want to turn to you next. Yes, Ecosystem is a US company, but started by South Africans. If I remember correctly, was it during the COVID time that they came back from Silicon Valley and then realized, let's just stick around Cape Town?
Cape Town was a good place to watch the sunset.
But you've got some incredible clients locally. I know there's a big bank, there's a big mobile telco, and again, without saying what you can't say, but just maybe some of the good work and how those clients have benefited from your platform.
So I'm going to thanks, Johan. So the big telco has basically was busy replacing all of their batch-based recommendations. So think about how you might interact with you might want to recharge or something like that on your data, and you go onto your app and you look at it, and there's an offer gets presented to you. Now, generally, that offer was trained last night on yesterday's data, and things might have changed. You might have already spent some money on your wallet, on something else, some other data, or some other thing that you can do with the telco operator, and they would have surfaced you an offer that you might not have been able to afford based on what you've got in your wallet. What our system, because it's real time, it can score a model, take the context into account, and respond to that request in milliseconds. It's on average about 20 milliseconds. And what that does, it allows that telco operator to really get to the heart of what those customers want. And because think about the friction. If the person has to then go out and reload some money from their bank into their app and then buy that data, they're not going to do it. But if it's the right offer at the right time, they're going to click on it. So that amount of friction has been removed. Just some stats around that. Towards the end of last year, the last couple of months, they processed something like 6 billion transactions on our system, our platform. It's the engine that sits behind their thing, and that's just the real-time stuff. And what they are doing is they're basically replacing their current batch-based recommendation engine with our recommendation engine. So that's sort of the real-time focus. But the other aspect that we like to do, like I mentioned earlier, is about the human in the system, figuring out what the humans want and the messages. I think about how many times companies have to sit in a room and say, what message are we going to send, and write down the actual words. And that message then has to go, it's probably about 6 months from the time that they think they need the message to when that message is approved. I think about the different language that all of us in this room would respond to slightly different language. Why don't you test with different people what different language they would? It's the same message, just said in a different way, different power words and those kind of things. And what we found with the bank that they did a small test, and that experiential people, they responded to a much more experiential type of message, 250% more than people with to the random sample. So essentially what's going to happen is that your messages are going to be tailored to how you interact with that bank. So those are some of the successes, and that's where we're going. So that decision point, that intelligent decision point, is going to be automated, maybe not automated in a sense, but instead of having a drop-down menu or some old default list, the model will now be able to recommend a decision point that you can guide that journey to have a better customer journey.
It's essentially behavioral science infused by AI and real-time analytics.
You've read our tagline. I mean, we are a bunch of data scientists, behavioral data scientists, computational engineers that have brought those two things together, because there's the data and then there's the human. And the humans are producing the data, but how does the two connect? Because it becomes quite sterile, just data. But how does the human, the context, the setting, that person's, the categorization of that person might change because the day of the week or the year, the day of the month, those things change. There might be holidays that are happening. Those contexts change. But the model has been trained over the data that's the whole year, so you've got to be able to take those nuances into account. You can only do that if you can do score models in real time.
It almost makes me think in this age where we can do things like that, should we not revolt against the kind of customer service we receive from most of our providers? I mean, I've been with my mobile provider since, well, maybe 22 years now. And when iPhones just came out, I've had iPhones and Apple products since then. I still get Huawei advertising sent to me. I'm not discriminating against the brand of Samsung. So yesterday they called me and say, oh, we realized you could have upgraded 2 months ago. And I'm thinking, am I not at massive churn risk? So why do they, and these companies, the mobile operators, have about 800 data points in each of us? They should be able to do so much more. It's hyper-personalization.
Just to get it to the different business users and to get the use cases. It has to be real time. Churn risk. What do you do about churn? Does churn, just knowing that somebody's going to churn, what do you do about it? I mean, that's the point. You've got to do something about it. Offer them something. Maybe that they want a message. Maybe they want to upgrade. All of those things. Then they won't churn. So knowing that they churn is the one part of data, but doing something about it in real time is where we think that you're going to get that value to the business.
Just before I get to you, Adam, just imagine this. Imagine on your mobile app, and we know it's to do with regulation and maybe corporate branding, etc. But Netflix really gets this right, because every time you look at potential shows, the landing card, the picture of that show changes. Depending on what you watched last, what time of the day it is, what day of the week it is, it's behavioral science. So imagine on my banking app, I would respond more to a green than a red background, and this is now where the branding comes in. But if the menu is top left, I would respond to it. If the menu contains the 3 items I most probably at that time of the day want to look at, and then there's a further expansion list, etc. If my bank or my telco knows, I respond more to WhatsApps than SMSer, and I do it easy at 7 o'clock at night, because they know how I behave. That's what this kind of technology can do.
Exactly right.
Adam, you work for with a bunch of brainiacs, solving all kinds of problems. There's an example, I forgot the detail now. Was it Education in Africa? What's that one platform you guys built? Maybe we talk about that and some other examples of some of the good work.
Well, to be honest, it's a little bit more about Elucidate, so I realized I gave a very brief intro, just like you alluded to it. We've had a bit of an interesting journey. Before I joined, we were purely a team of data scientists. Those data scientists were handling our outreach, they were handling our initial engagement meetings, and it wasn't quite working. As you know, we've heard the importance of incorporating business acumen in those initial discussions. Hence, why I joined since then. We've built our team to consist of actuaries like myself, well, actuaries, CAs like myself, and then we've obviously got our data science, our front end and back end engineers. But just going back to your question, I think a recent trend which we've seen, and it's kind of, I don't want to call it the rise of ChatGPT, because we all know generative AI has been around for quite some time. I know my data scientist with me, Jesse, I call him our NLP specialist. He hates it when I refer to the rise of ChatGPT, because some of the stuff we've known about for a bit of time, but it's actually created, to the point where I think just yesterday I had 3 calls with one with the panel beater from Cape Town, interested in a chatbot. They heard about GPT and they thought, wow, it's very interesting. Can't I classify what's wrong with people's vehicles, give them a quote straight away on WhatsApp? Quite a simple solution. But something more complex was a few months ago we got approached by a large company. I'm not going to say the name, we're still under NDA and whatnot, but they're looking for an employee engagement platform. They were looking for something that would really allow them, they're in the insurance space, they needed their insurance advisors to have access to a smart tool that can provide them on-the-go resources when they're dealing with a specific insurance application, or be it a claim request. They had some quite interesting thoughts on what we could do there. We went ahead and we started building this platform. We started understanding the organization. We were fortunate enough that obviously we couldn't, it's been happening too, you can't integrate necessarily with GPT, proprietary information. We would never want to share that with any sort of platform. So we went ahead and we've started really understanding and working towards building this sort of full-scale platform that allows employees to, hey, I've got someone who works in the mines. What do I need to know about providing insurance to someone who works in the mines? This part's quite smart. He'll understand the level that employee is with. If he's a senior advisor, we can go straight and say, listen, this is the recent circular that our organization has issued, accompanied by, here's the most recent application form. These are the key principles you need to make sure are followed. These are the key questions you need to ask this individual about his work. It's still being prototyped, but we're actually doing some live testing with some of the more senior advisors. But it's quite interesting in that these sort of use cases existed last year. They existed the year before. But people, and as someone said before, people fear what they don't know. I heard that in an earlier session. But what we like to say is people don't know what they don't know, and that's what we, the rise of generative AI, I should say, has led to executives, to businesses asking a lot of questions. Asking, can we do this? But these questions could have been asked last year. We could have built this platform, last year. So it's just been a bit of an interesting journey, I suppose, in the last, 12 to 18 months, and what we've seen and how we've had to kind of adapt our offering. I know you mentioned reverse mentoring earlier. We at Elucidate, we have our own version of reverse mentoring. I'm doing it today with Jesse, but we do it on every one of our projects. Myself, more of the business consulting side, I work very closely with the data science on every engagement. I join them on those calls with the client when we're explaining the results of the model or when we'll be able to deploy a new ML credit solution. And Jesse joins me likewise on those discussions where we talk about the commercials, where we talk about how we're going to scope the next steps. It's something that we're focusing a lot on, because we feel that really engaging, understanding customers, be able to kind of tell them what they need to hear in the way that they can understand it. That's allowing us to kind of really grow our business and break down those barriers that, like I said, the rise of generative AI has, got us a lot more of these client discussions, but not all of them are closing. But our work in the last year of really upskilling our data guys, upskilling our entrepreneurial guys has really put us in quite an interesting position. But, we're starting to see that deals can be closed a lot quicker. But yeah, was that exactly answers your question? I might have gone on a bit of a
That's fine. We've only met today. I think we've known each other for about a year.
Yeah,
it's been about 55 virtual calls. So it's nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, likewise.
Andrew, I like the name OQLIS. It's the ability to see, and I think it's been touched on earlier. I mean, we've got all this data, but do we see? And it's not just a dashboard, it's not just the historical dashboard. Can the technology allow us to see into the future? I know you guys work in time and attendance, obviously automation, a lot of sensor data and the like. Maybe one or two stories of successes you've had with solving client problems.
Sure, we've sort of got a joke in the office. Sometimes we are our customers' best kept secret because you can embed OQLIS inside of applications. We can sort of operate sort of in the shadows and let the customer sort of take all the glory. So a lot of our successes are actually our customer successes. So we've really delivered great value in the IoT space because people thought about collecting data with sensors, but they never sort of figured out, well, how do they do historical reporting? How do they build beautiful dashboards that convey the business value of IoT? How do they build AI models inside of a tool based on the data that they collect and present that? So we've had very, very strong success in the IoT space because there's a lot of moving parts there and a lot of data. And also in the time and attendance business process management space. So if you think about sort of RPA or workflow-based tools, all of them generate data. And what people underestimate is that they sort of build all these processes, and when they need to communicate that through dashboards and reporting, it's the last thing people think about. So that's where we solve that sort of last mile of that journey to actually take that raw data and convert it into actionable insights. So we're finding great success in aligning ourselves with sort of other software vendors that are industry leaders in their particular field in document management, in workflow tools, in sort of IoT platform spaces. So we've definitely found a lot of success in those areas.
Let me do a follow-up with you. How difficult is it to start a tech business in South Africa? What are the main challenges?
Yeah, it's difficult. So we haven't been externally funded at all. The great thing about that is that everything you do, the customer pays for, which means you need to deliver value and you need to do it quickly. So it's been a hard journey in a lot of ways because there's so many things you have to do as the starter of a business or the founder of a business. There's so many things you have to do, and you have to have a product or a service that actually generates revenue that both pays you and pays for growth and all the people you employ. So it's gotten easier over time, but I think it's through the grace of early adopting customers and truly innovative customers that see the potential in what we do that's made the process easier. But it's definitely a challenge. On the positive side, from a skills point of view, we're probably the best in the world in terms of the skills that are coming out of vastly the people that we see. So we've tended to hire industrial engineers. I'm a little bit biased because that's what I am, sort of by training. But the talent we've been able to source is second to none. So that's what I thought would be the hardest part, is actually finding talent and convincing that talent to be a part of your journey. That's actually turned out to be the easiest part. The hardest part is navigating the world of enterprise procurement process. That's the biggest challenge, and payment terms. So you can deliver value in a couple of days, but get paid in 90 days if you're lucky. So that's a challenge, but I think everybody faces that challenge.
Which leads me to the question for you, Nomsa. I mean, we currently, some of you here are working with me. In fact, this financial services company that came to me and said, listen, we want to bring in a few smaller, hot, really innovative companies. And it's now been, how many weeks that we finally are getting the onboarding happening, and then it might be another 2 months before it's done, and then it might be another 3 months before you actually speak to some business owners. So what I want to ask, and we understand there are procurement rules and the like, Nomsa, just as a smaller, more niche firm, do our big corporates give opportunities? And what is the frustration? Because it is this vendor onboarding thing and the like. Or is it almost worth just staying away from the big corporates? What do you think?
So I think for me it's the trust, and it's one of the messages that I want to put out there, to say corporates needs to start trusting startups in terms of delivering value. If that trust is not there, we find it very difficult, because they look at your firm and say, oh, these guys are too young, do they understand what they're delivering and stuff like that? Let alone the journey now of getting into them saying, yes, let's start the procurement process. but even the buy-in from when you initiate the sale for the first time. So if you are a startup and you don't have a history, the confidence in you delivering work is not there. Unless you say we can then do a POC so that you can see our capability, and maybe we give them 6 weeks POC. So that journey from starting a sale to you being onboarded to you finalizing a project, it takes quite long. So I really encourage corporates to look at startups, because startups are very innovative and they deliver on time and they need to deliver. Just like you're saying, I don't think funding in South Africa is easy. You find that we really start our business with zero funding, and our funding is dependent on the customers that are buying into the innovation. And the corporates that have already been there, they already have their strategies. Perhaps it could be their education as well. Sometimes we look at corporates and we think everything is ready. They have their strategies, but you find that they're going into their own digital transformation journey. It would be lovely if they bring in startups in their digital transformation journey so that we can then journey together in delivering value.
I want to get some questions going, but I want to ask you to give me a 1-minute answer if possible. Firstly, Rob, you guys deal globally, you've got a lot of work that you're doing in the States. Are there similar trends in getting into South African corporates? So it could be a lack of understanding the technology. Are there that you find everywhere? Are there some unique challenges in getting into South African corporates?
I think the thing with the South African corporates, and to echo what my fellow panelists were saying earlier, I think there's 2 types of corporates in this country. One that are willing to take a chance and be early adopters, and the rest. And most of us, I think, are probably glad that there are those early adopters. We don't find that much in the US. Not the market that we're playing in. They kind of want to stay with the tried and tested. Nobody, back in the day, nobody would fight for hiring IBM. And I think the thing at the moment now is we're competing with Microsoft on some of our solutions. And I'm bragging a little bit, we are better than them. We've got to maintain our edge, because they just spent like $10 million. We're never going to spend $10 million, never mind, $10 million on developing. So we focus on niche and making sure that the customers are benefiting from that niche. So I think just to answer your question, I think the South African enterprises are you've got those 2, and we just got to make sure that we find the ones that are willing to be, take that journey with you.
Okay. So Adam, on the one hand, you've got corporates that must give a chance to smaller startups, but I also think, and you being a CA joining a tech firm, I think often the problem is that the startups don't know how to sell in business terms, and that's where the mismatch is.
100%. I think as I'll be honest, we've engaged with a lot of large corporates. We've done investigations into their data. We've proposed solutions mainly in the financial services space, and then those leads run dry. We don't really hear back from them. And I think the analogy you once gave me, Johan, stuck with me ever since. Think of it as you're in matric. Your dad's done a few illegal arms deals, and you've got a lot of fun. So he bought you a beautiful Ferrari. Now, all your friends would love to, they all want to get in that Ferrari. That first day, wow, everyone's lining up after school. I'm going to go home with you. You need to give me a lift. They go home the first day, it's sunny. Awesome, this is how the car performs in the sun. They go home the second day, it's raining. Okay, this is how the car performs in the rain. Then the third day comes and they realize, I've got a car. It can get from A to B. I've got some money in my bank account. Maybe I can just sell my car, upgrade my bank account, get a nicer, sell my car, get some money in my bank, upgrade to a new car, and I can get from A to B, almost like Elucidate could. But what was happening is like if you visualize it this way, everyone wants to hear our product, everyone wants to see our Ferrari, everyone wants to hear how we got that Ferrari. We tell them about it, we provide them, how we would go about helping them get to a Ferrari, and these big corporates look at us and say, okay, cool, you're a team of 15 guys, we've got funds, we've got a data analytics team, why can't we do this ourselves? And they almost, I think we all do it in our own way when we have, engagements in the business world. You kind of feed off what other people are doing, see how you can do it yourself. But it's been a real hurdle for us. We're not looking to be acquired. That's also the first question we always get. We're looking to engage, add value, create long-term partnerships, and it's finding the right balance between putting in the effort in those negotiations as well as keeping your your secrets to yourself. And I think we're learning every day. Johan's, through Johan, we've had some great engagements. We're hoping to take that forward. But I think if I could leave one message for the corporates, I guess, is give us a chance. I think we, financially, these startups, we often favorable, in terms of how we structure our agreements. Nomsa mentioned how quick can we get to a POC. We've got a lot of engineers on our team that we spend a lot of time refining a framework for specific industries. What can we produce? How quick? We're taking it seriously. We just need, some of these companies to take that step with us. So,
Thank you. 4 or so minutes left. Happy that I see if there's any questions. There are roving mics. Just put up your hand if you want to ask a question to any of the panelists.
Well, that's fantastic. I just wanted to add here, as you were talking, and speaking of not looking to be acquired, Michael Jordan has just announced the launch of an AI private equity fund with some of the founders in various other ventures of his, Willem Russ and a few others. They're looking to raise $200 million to invest in post-revenue, so startups with a track record. So while you may not be looking to be bought out, maybe you're looking for a partner, Adam, and might be the right person to speak to who can open some corporate doors and break through some of that friction, which is understandable. Right, do we have any questions from the audience for our intrepid startups? Okay, I've got one, and it's probably a more ubiquitous general question, but in terms of the operating environment in South Africa, it's very gloomy at the moment. You chat to people, load shedding, the political noise creates its own challenges, infrastructure decay. I found entrepreneurs to be singularly optimistic in their DNA. They tend to be able to put that to one side and to just build. How are you finding that impacting either on yourselves or your teams or your potential customers? How are you finding the operating environment? I don't know who wants to pick up on that.
I think that everything's slowing down. We know that the procurement process takes a long time, but I think it's slowing down because there's probably 3 or 4 more committees that are thinking, well, is this actually the right investment that we want to make? And I think that's what's really affecting us. From our point of view, we are at the end where the companies are making money. So as long as you can keep showing that you're making money, they're going to keep paying for you. So the problem is that they want to keep squeezing the customers, and I think that's where when the customer stops enjoying what you're putting out there, you're not going to have a product to sell.
If I could just add on that, I think we heard from Eugene from Dispel, who mentioned every year he goes with his budget for data analytics spend, and it's going up 25%. I think it's great for Dispel, it's great for the other companies in South Africa that are doing that. But what we've seen with some of our retainer clients that have actually, unfortunately for us, unfortunately for them, because we know the value of data, have scaled down some of the agreements. To the point that I was on a call recently where the CFO said, listen, I know you, with your CA background, this is our budget, and we're allocating 2.5% of our revenue to IT spend. Last year was 7%, which was, in our opinion, was already too low. So, and I didn't want to, obviously they had a lot of discussion, I didn't want to understand what they're doing. Retrenchments, what's the reason why they're so strapped? But it's a hurdle for us, not to mention the delay, the slowdown of the procurement cycle, but we've got very little, it's not every organization, but some, we're getting less and less to work with. But, some of the public trends like we've seen are creating more demand. So I think the next few months will be pivotal for us. We're really taking, point of inflection to see how can we really break down this barrier. There's increasing demand, but like you said, these macroeconomic factors that are really impacting us. So I think hopefully we'll see in the next month how we can really develop and take this forward.
On the other side of that coin,
just quickly, I think as much as we are a resilient country, obviously these challenges that we're experiencing are very frustrating. Perhaps we need to look at how can we then use technology, to ensure that as much as we're going through these challenges, technology can come and assist and augment and help businesses survive the challenges we're facing. We need to think around that.
Absolutely. It was a theme yesterday that we touched on about doing less or doing more with less, because in an environment where budgets are being scaled back, here's an opportunity to talk about the technology allowing you to be more efficient with a little bit less in the process. And so maybe just the last point from me, on the other side of that coin, let's call it the mainstreaming of AI, not maybe the rise of AI, because as you know, and everyone in this room knows, it's been bubbling under the surface for the last few years. But now it feels more mainstream. Does that open the space for you to now have more conversations? Say, right, the technology is here. Guys are raising VC and private equity funds to invest all over the place. You don't want to miss the boat.
100%. I mean, like my example earlier, from a panel beta reaching out to us for chatbot to that large insurance organization looking for an employee engagement platform. The subject line of the email that we received was ChatGPT, can I use something along those lines? So there are definitely opportunities there. Which I'd like to hear maybe more someone else from the panel like to.
For us, our customers tend to have more tabular data. So the type of models that they want to build is a little bit more simplistic, not really language-based models. But the good thing is, because they have the data already, they can build predictive maintenance models, digital twin style models where you actually want to evaluate input variables and its effect on the output. So for our customers, they want to do proven use cases in terms of the AI and the whole ChatGPT language-based models are less of a a priority for our customer base anyway. It's more about delivering hardcore operational value. And I think just on the question beforehand, our vision from a South African point of view is that we see that as a potential advantage. Part of our strategy this year is to have more than half of our revenue internationally based. And the great thing about operating from South Africa is that, if you're pricing in dollars and the rand devalues, at least you've got a hedge against that. But also your operating and cost base exists in rands and your revenue exists in dollars. And I think from a skills point of view and a cost of skills point of view, South Africa's got a huge labor arbitrage advantage in these higher skill sectors, definitely. So that's how we see the current situation in South Africa as a potential advantage, because the skills are here and there's international business to take advantage of.
Question from the floor over here.
I'm great to have a group of people like this here. Thanks for that opportunity. The question is with respect to data quality. When you lead with an AI solution, there's like a level of abstraction where sometimes the data quality is hidden or it's not there, it's not hidden. So I guess the question, and I'm going to maybe pose it, is when you have a dependency on data quality and you need to vet and vouch for it, how do you do that when you're under pressure to lead with your AI solution?
That's a great question. I'm sure you all experience this a lot. But you're ready to help the client, but they're not ready for you to engage them because of the data problem.
So if I may come in, that's really where the client needs to start. Because at the end of the day, if the data is not ready for the AI solutions, you have to teach the bots, you have to train the technology. You can't do it with the data that is not correct. I must say that throughout the session, data literacy is something that is spoken about quite a lot. And for AI to come in, data has to be ready. There's really just no two ways about it.
I think one of the challenges, if you're a large consulting firm, then you want to do that end-to-end. Let's look at the data, we consult, we want to bill you as much as we can. But you guys all have a very specific niche. And I guess the amount of dependencies that will cause you not to engage or be successful is much larger. Rob, especially what you guys do.
Well, we prefer is more data consistency. So as long as if the data is wrong, we'll figure it out. It'll get spat out very soon. As long as it's consistent. If it's consistently bad, we can ignore it and we can train models to figure out what that data should be. So not data quality, more data consistency. And then if you don't have data, the other thing that we all talk about, we need data. You don't actually, in our instance, we don't always need data. We need interactions. What's happening? And you start generating your own data based on those interactions, and then you've got data. So it's about that. It's about consistency and then just interactions in our space.
Yeah, I thought we had more time, but the countdown clock's been read for a long while now.
No, we are slightly over. We thought we'd steal a bit more of your time and eat into lunch because it's been so interesting. So, Johan, thank you very much. I think a warm round of applause, everyone, for the